The Shadows of Eldrath. A high fantasy novel. Prologue. The last light over Aranthor. Storm clouds rolled low over the abandoned citadel of Aranthor, swallowing the sun in layers of cold gray. A single lantern flickered in a tower window, the last known light in a fortress once filled with warmth, laughter, and songs of ancient heroes. Now the stones whispered only to the winds. Beneath the tower, in a battered hall of cracked marble pillars, the seer of Eldrath stood alone. Her ragged cloak fluttered like torn parchment, her silver hair glowing faintly in the dark. "The shadow rises again," she murmured, voice trembling. "And this time it has learned our names." She lifted an obsidian shard, a relic carved with runes older than kingdoms, and held it to her ear as if listening for a heartbeat. It pulsed. Far to the south, beyond forests and mountains, three strangers would soon be drawn together by fate, the only ones who could stop what was coming. Chapter 1. The Outcast of Thornhollow. The village of Thornhollow was small, quiet, and ordinary, except for one thing. It had a resident it did not want. Caelan Varro. At dawn, he stood on a cliff overlooking the valley, cloak snapping in the wind. His dark hair fell over sharp, weathered features. His eyes, a strange, glimmering silver, reflected the rising sun. Those eyes were the reason the villagers whispered behind his back. They said he had been touched by forbidden magic. They said he was dangerous. They were right about one thing. He was dangerous, but only to the creatures that lurked beyond the forests. Caelan exhaled, steadying his breath as he strapped twin long knives to his belt. The blades hummed faintly with runes etched along their edges, a reminder of his mother, a mage lost to the darkness when Caelan was still a boy. "Another day," he muttered, "another hunt." As he returned to the village, people pulled children indoors, closed shutters, and watched through cracks in their doors. Caelan didn't blame them. Silver-eyed wanderers were rarely welcomed in peaceful towns. Still, Thornhollow was home, the only one he had left. Outside the mayor's house, a girl of 12 stood waiting, Lyra, freckled, bright-eyed, and utterly unafraid of him. "You're leaving again," she said. "I have to. Monsters won't stop coming, will they?" "No," Caelan replied gently. "They won't." She hesitated, then offered a small loaf of bread. "For the road." Caelan accepted it with a faint smile, one of the few he ever showed. "Thank you, Lyra." As he turned away, he didn't notice the figure watching from the tree line. Hooded, motionless, eyes glowing faintly green. Wailing. Chapter 2. The Scholar of Ashenford. Lyran Duskwhisper had read enough books to know that the world was doomed. She sat cross-legged on the stone floor of Ashenford's grand library, surrounded by scrolls and tomes towered in precarious stacks. Candlelight flickered across her face, illuminating golden-brown skin and dark curls tied loosely back. Her fingers traced an old map depicting the realms of Eldrath long before any current kingdom had a name. "The patterns repeat," she whispered. every time the shadow stirs, the signs begin decades earlier. She flipped open a crumbling manuscript and scanned its pages. Famine in the west. Creatures stirring in forests. Stars flickering unnaturally. Magic growing restless. All things she'd observed herself. A cold breeze brushed her cheek. Impossible inside a sealed library. Lyra. She froze. The voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere at once. Calm, deep, ancient. "You must go north," it said. "The shadow has returned. The world will fall if you remain idle." Lyra swallowed hard. "Who are you?" But the voice was gone, as if it had never existed at all. She rose, closed her books, and shoved essential scrolls into her satchel. If ancient prophecies were awakening, then everything she had ever studied would soon matter, and she had no intention of sitting behind dusty shelves while the world crumbled. Chapter 3. The Soldier Without a Name. Rain hammered the stone courtyard of Fort Dawnbreak, turning the dirt to thick mud. Soldiers trained regardless, exchanging blows beneath the watch of their harsh commander. At the far end of the yard stood a man who did not speak, did not remove his helmet, and did not sleep unless exhaustion forced him. No name. That's what they called him. He carried a colossal greatsword strapped to his back, black metal, forged in a style no smith recognized. When he swung it, the air trembled, and yet he seemed burdened by it, as if every swing cost a piece of his soul. A young recruit approached him timidly. "Sir, the captain wants—" The soldier froze as No Name lifted his visor halfway, enough for the recruit to see the unnatural glow behind the man's eyes, a burning blue, cold and sorrowful. "I will go," No Name said softly, voice muffled like wind through a crypt. The recruit shuddered and stepped back. No Name walked toward the command tent, but stopped suddenly as pain ripped through his skull. Visions flashed before him. A dark forest. A silver-eyed hunter. A scholar with scrolls. A swirling mass of shadows rising from beneath the earth. Then a name, whispered like a memory. Eldrath. He dropped to one knee, panting, gripping his sword as if it anchored him to the world. "Not again," he whispered. "Not again." Chapter 4. When Paths Converge. 3 roads met at the ruins of an old watchtower. Kalen arrived first. He examined the shattered stones, noticing scorch marks across the walls. Then a figure approached from the south, hooded, carrying scrolls strapped to her back. Lyra. Kalen tensed. "Who are you?" "Lyra Duskwhisper," she replied, "scholar of Ashenford." "You shouldn't be here." "Funny," she muttered. "The voice that visited me said the same thing, right before telling me to come." Kalen frowned. "What voice?" Before she could answer, the ground trembled. A third figure stepped into the clearing, towering, armored, sword on his back. No Name. Kalen instinctively reached for his blades. Lyra stepped between them. "Stop! We were guided here, all 3 of us." Kalen hesitated. No Name didn't move. Lyra turned slowly. "We're here for a reason," she said. "Something old is waking, and it wants us dead." Chapter 5. The Shadow Stirs. Night fell quickly, too quickly. The air grew heavy, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Kaelin crouched low, scanning the trees. Lyra clutched a lantern that barely pierced the creeping darkness. No Name remained still, sword in hand. Then the shadows moved. A tall, warped figure stepped from between twisted pines. Its skin was stretched too thin, its mouth sewn shut with black thread. Eyes hollow, face cracked like dried mud. Lyra gasped. A hollowed. Kaelin unsheathed his blades. "I've fought one. They're made from—" More figures appeared. "A horde," Lyra whispered. The hollow lurched forward, moving silently, limbs jerking unnaturally. Kaelin lunged first, slicing through the nearest creature. Black dust spilled from the wound. No Name swung his greatsword, cleaving 3 at once, but each strike made him flinch, as if the blade punished him. "Lyra!" Kaelin shouted. "Do something!" She unfurled a scroll with trembling hands. "I'm trying." She traced runes as the hollowed closed in. They reached her just as the scroll glowed bright gold. A wave of light burst outward, disintegrating the creatures instantly. Silence returned. Kaelin stared at her, chest heaving. "Remind me never to irritate you." Lyra smirked faintly. No Name, however, stared at the remains with dread. "This is only the beginning," he said. "The shadow has found us." Chapter 6. Into the Forest of Mourning. Their journey north took them into the Forest of Mourning, a place where the sunlight barely touched the ground and the trees grew like ancient sentinels. Legends said the forest was once a battlefield where thousands had died and the roots still drank their memories. As they walked, whispers drifted between the branches. Lyra shivered. "The trees, they're speaking." Kaelin nodded. "They're warning us." No Name remained silent. The deeper they went, the darker the forest became. Lanterns dimmed. Even firelight seemed afraid. Hours passed before they reached a clearing where bones, human and animal, littered the grass. Kaelin crouched. "Something fed here." Lyra swallowed. "Recently?" "No." A cold voice came from behind them. "Currently." A creature emerged from the shadows, massive, wolf-like, but with a human skull protruding from its snout. Its ribs jutted out of decomposed flesh. Its eyes glowed a sickly yellow. A graveborn. Kaelin readied his knives, but No Name stepped forward. "This one is mine." Before Kaelin could protest, the creature lunged. No Name swung his sword with a roar, and the blade exploded with blue light, slicing the graveborn clean in half. But the impact sent No Name collapsing to one knee. Lyra knelt beside him. "You're bleeding." "I can't die," he murmured. "Not yet." Kaelin frowned. "Who are you?" No Name looked up, eyes filled with centuries of sorrow. "A man who failed once," he said, and was cursed to make it right. Chapter 7. The Forgotten City of Eldrath. After days of travel, the forest thinned and revealed a valley of crumbling spires, toppled statues, and streets swallowed by vines. Eldrath, once the jewel of the ancient world, now a graveyard of stone. Lyra touched a shattered obelisk. This city predates every kingdom on the continent. Kaelin surveyed the ruins. Why would a voice summon us here? No Name stared ahead. Because this is where the shadow was born. As they entered the palace courtyard, the ground shook. A massive fissure split open beneath the broken throne. From the darkness below, a shape began to rise. A colossal figure made of swirling black mist, bound by chains of bone. Its eyes burned white-hot, its form towering above them like a living nightmare.
Lyra gasped. The shadow! It's alive!
Kaelin drew his blades. We end this. The creature roared, a sound like the earth tearing apart. Chains shattered, and all light vanished. Chapter 8. The Battle Beneath the Earth. The world turned black. Kaelin swung blindly, his blades clashing against shifting shadow. Lyra chanted desperately, trying to form a protective barrier. No Name fought like a man possessed, each strike of his sword ripping holes in the darkness. The shadow's voice echoed around them. You cannot win. You were chosen not to stop me, but to free me. Lyra screamed as the creature's tendrils wrapped around her. Kaelin leaped forward, slicing them apart. Lyra, stay with me. I'm trying, she cried, but its magic is... A blast of force sent Kaelin flying into a stone pillar. No Name charged directly at the creature's core, sword blazing blue. But the shadow only laughed. You, again, the cursed one, still trying to atone? No Name roared and plunged his sword into the shadow's heart, or what passed for one. A blinding explosion followed. Kaelin shielded his eyes. Lyra screamed. And then, silence. Chapter 9. The Price of Victory. When the dust settled, the shadow lay defeated, its form flickering like dying embers. But No Name was gone. Only his sword remained, embedded in the cracked floor, glowing faintly. Kaelin approached it slowly. He sacrificed himself, Lyra whispered, tears slipping down her cheeks. No, Kaelin murmured. He fulfilled his purpose. Lyra looked up. What do we do now? Kaelin lifted the sword. It vibrated softly in his hands, warm, alive, as if recognizing him. We finish what he started. Lyra nodded. Together, they walked to the heart of Eldrath, where ancient runes glowed faintly on the floor. With a final chant, Lachlan sealed the chamber forever. The shadow would not rise again. Epilogue. A New Dawn. Months later, dawn rose over a peaceful thorn hollow. Kaelin stood on the same cliff as always, but for the first time he did not feel alone. Lyra stood beside him, clutching the ancient scrolls she now used to rebuild lost knowledge. You know, she said softly, The world will need protectors again someday. Caitlin smiled faintly. Then we'll be ready. Behind them, the sword of the cursed warrior gleamed in the morning light, a silent vow. The shadows had fallen, but the legacy of Eldrath had only just begun.